Imagine what your team could look like today if you had stashed high upside players instead of waiting each new week for the next waiver wire hotness that you have to bid on. In today's video, I'm bringing you stashes with upside for smaller and larger leagues. Almost 30 names we'll talk about today. So if you're in a small or large league, there'll be something for everyone out there. Just before we get into my top 10, I'm going to give you names that should already be rostered, okay? The names that you'll see in yellow, these are names that we already discussed on last week's video. Tyjae Spears, he had a little breakout game. Hopefully you already had him stashed. Chuba Hubbard, he's slowly taking Miles Sanders' role. Quentin Johnston, a first-round wide receiver. They just had their bye week. Maybe he's going to be installed a little more in the game plan. Rashee Rice coming off a touchdown game. Josh Downs, we talked about last week. Now with Minshew in play, he looks like a more consistent, maybe flex play. Luke Musgrave is one of my favorite young tight ends. And of course, we've got Kyler Murray there, who he should already be rostered. This is specifically for super flex leagues. You know, you want to have this guy on your IR spot waiting to come back to make a difference. Zach Charbonnet is a great handcuff. Jackson Smith and Jigba could be more involved after the bye. And KJ Osborne is going to have a very important role now with Justin Jefferson on IR. Okay, let's get to my top 10 here. My number one stash, and honestly, I think this guy should be rostered everywhere by now, but just in case he's available, go pick this guy up right now as you're watching the video. Jeff Wilson Jr., he's available at the time of recording this in 70% of ESPN leagues and 76% of sleeper leagues. He has been on the IR through week 5, and now they are officially opening his window, okay? That means that he could play within the next 21 days. It doesn't mean he will play this week, but there's a chance that he does. The Dolphins, remember guys, they traded for Jeff Wilson last year after the 49ers acquired Christian McCaffrey. He played for the Dolphins from weeks 9 to 18. In that time span, Jeff Wilson had 2 top 8 finishes. He finished top 26 in 6 of 8 weeks, and he averaged 10.5 PPR points per game, and he was the RB 35 in that time span. Now, of course, we do have to recognize that there was no De'Von Achane on the roster last year to compete with. However, unfortunately, we found out this week that De'Von Achane is going to miss multiple weeks as he recovers from his own injury, so Wilson could present some serious fantasy value while Achane is recovering. After all, get this, kind of crazy. It makes sense, but kind of crazy. The Dolphins running back room has scored the most fantasy points of any backfield in the NFL this year. Mostert and De'Von Achane alone are averaging 41 PPR points per game between just the two of them. So if Achane misses an extended amount of time, Achane, whatever, if he misses an extended amount of time, we could find ourselves in a position where Jeff Wilson's a flex play every week. So make sure that he is rostered on those running back needy teams. All right, the second stash that we're going to talk about today, this is a guy that I brought up in last week's video, and some people were kind of discrediting him in the comments. I hope you stashed him. He's even higher on this week's list. Jonathan Mingo, available in 93% of ESPN leagues and 78% of sleeper leagues. So far on the year, he's a wide receiver 81. Not made a huge impact, but again, he was on my stash video last week. Hopefully you did stash him because he is gaining momentum. He is popping up on people's fantasy radar, and there really are 4 reasons I have hope for Mingo rest of the year. Firstly, he's averaging 90% of the snaps in games when he's been healthy this year. So they are trusting him to be out there a very high percentage of snaps. Secondly, he's averaging 6.5 targets per game through 5 weeks. That's more targets per game, guys, than Drake London, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy, Jordan Addison, and DK Metcalf. He's averaging more targets per game than those guys. And thirdly, the Panthers are third in passing attempts per game so far in 2023. They are having to throw the ball a ton. Couple reasons. Number one, their rushing offense cannot get going to save their lives. Hubbard and Miles not really getting the job done. Number two, they're allowing a ton of points. So they're having to put up a lot of points to be competitive. Keep in mind, this is a team that does not have their first round pick. They will continue to throw the ball because they need to win games. And lastly, this team has talked about needing a wide receiver to step up. Why not the guy that they picked 40th overall in the second round, good draft capital? Remember, let's be a little bit patient with rookies, all right? Not all rookies come out of the gate just swinging. Fantasy superstars from day one like Puka Nacua. That doesn't always happen. Amon-Ra St. Brown in his rookie year, he wasn't a star until week 13. Christian Watson, in his rookie year last year, he only took off from week 10 onwards. There are signs that can point us towards Mingo being an important part of this offense, and if he and Bryce Young get on the same page, he could be a real fantasy asset. All right, the third player we want to stash that I'm going to talk about is Kendre Miller. This one is very, very simple. Kendre Miller is, quite simply put, a fantastic handcuff for fantasy football. Keep in mind, guys, the whole point of this video is not to tell you all these players are going to be absolute superstars. That's the opposite of this video. We want to find the needle in the haystack. And for handcuff running backs, you want to beat the waiver wire. If Alvin Kamara goes down this week, Kendre Miller's automatically the number one waiver wire pickup in all of fantasy football. We want to beat the waiver wire, okay? We don't want to be behind. We want to be ahead. When J.K. Dobbins went down, everybody's rushing to the waiver wire to fight for Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, right? When Nick Chubb went down, everybody's trying to go out and get Jerome Ford. When Eckler went down, everyone went out and bought Joshua Kelly. That wasn't worth it, but the thought process made sense. You wanted to get a starting running back on a good offense. James Conner this week and Khalil Herbert both went down, and who are, some of the top pickups? Rashawn Johnson and DeMarcado, right? We just want to be ahead of the waiver wire in these scenarios. Kendre Miller is a talented running back. He put up over 1,400 yards and 17 touchdowns on the ground alone last year at TCU while helping them get to a national championship game. You can see they're clearly missing him and Quentin Johnston right now. The team is 3-3 without him, 10th ranked in their own conference. If Kamara goes down, look for Kendre Miller, the guy that the Saints spent a day 2 pick on to lead the way over Jamal Williams. All right, the fourth stash for me this week is Michael Wilson. And hang on with me because you're not going to realize how many people are dropping him. He's available in 75% of ESPN leagues and 49% of sleeper leagues. That number will be higher by the time I release this video. I'm 100% confident. On the year, he's a wide receiver 39, over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Michael Wilson, as of today, I'm recording the video, is the third most dropped player in leagues this week. He has been dropped in 224,000 leagues so far this week. And I understand. I totally understand. He just put up a 2.8 point performance. I get it. It's tough. 2 targets, 1 reception. It's going to take a little while for Michael Wilson to be consistent. He has to keep gaining the trust of the quarterback, of the coaching staff, and of this team. But this is a talented guy. We know that. We just saw him in week 4 against the Niners go off for a 26-point performance. Give him some time to get consistent in the NFL. There's reasons for optimism, okay? In this game, in week 5, he had his second highest snap share of any game this year at 75% of the snaps. He played more snaps and ran more routes than Rondale Moore in that game. There are reasons for optimism. A talented route runner on a team that's going to have to throw the ball a lot, that at some point may get a quarterback upgrade with Kyler Murray. Give this guy a chance, again, as a rookie, to really get into his zone. I still think there is a chance he becomes a reliable flex option on this team. Not to mention, who knows what trades this team makes at the deadline. All right, my fifth stash. You might not like this, but everyone's struggling to find a good tight end. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to be ahead of the curve here. Pick them up. You never know what's going to happen. Let's talk about Michael Mayer, tight end of the Raiders. He's available in 99% of ESPN leagues and 88% of sleeper leagues. So this is a deeper, I'm pulling deeper into the bag here with this one, okay? In your 8-man or 10-man leagues, maybe you skip this one and go to the next one. But for all those guys in 12, 14, 16-man leagues, let's pick up Michael Mayer. Tight end 56 on the year. Hasn't really had much opportunity, but that could change here as they ramp him up. Sam Laporta may be spoiling all of us a little bit this year. Rookie tight ends performing, That's not common. That is actually the exception, not the rule historically. But keep in mind, guys, 9 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 draft experts, scouts, 9 out of 10 people had Michael Mayer ranked as the highest tight end in this year's draft class. Mayer just has not had a single opportunity to show it until really this week. We are coming off a career high game for Michael Mayer in a couple different categories. Career high snap percentage, career high targets, receptions, and receiving yards. We've heard this coaching staff talk about wanting to include their tight ends more into the game plan. Maybe we're just seeing Michael Mayer scratch the surface, but guess what? If he goes out there in the next couple weeks and has an over 10-point game, he's going to be picked up in a lot more leagues. With how difficult it is to find a tight end and how much Jimmy G has favored tight ends in the past, Michael Mayer becomes a fine stash option. All right, the sixth stash that we're going to look at today is Marvin Mims, wide receiver for the Broncos. He's available in 84% of ESPN leagues and 60% of sleeper leagues. He's a wide receiver, 51 on the year, 10 of 12 targets he has caught. This is really all based on one idea. Okay, so hang in there with me. We've heard about the Broncos in trade rumors to trade away their wide receivers for 2 years in a row. Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, these guys' names have been thrown around. Last year, during the season, the Broncos shopped Jerry Jeudy. No one met their asking price. The Broncos are currently tied for the second worst record in the NFL. If they keep losing, we could see them move on from one of these guys, Jeudy or Sutton, or maybe even both if, the cards are dealt the right way as they look kind of towards the future in the 2024 NFL draft. If that were to happen, even if one of them were to be traded, Marvin Mims could move into the flex category. He might end up being a weekly flex play if that were to happen. So far in 2023, he hasn't played over 50% of the snaps in a single game. Marvin Mims, that is. He's averaging right now 28% of the snaps through 5 weeks. He hasn't been heavily targeted. However, the good thing is again, there's potential change on the way. And in the small opportunities that he's been given, he has shown plenty of flashes to show us that he's a player that could grow a larger role over the season. And if one of those guys are gone, again, he will be one of the number one pickups on the waiver wire, unquestionably. We want to think ahead with these kind of stashes. The seventh stash that we're going to talk about, another tight end from the same team as Marvin Mims, Greg Dulcich, available in over 90% of ESPN leagues and 80+% of sleeper leagues. He's a tight end 75 on the year. He played a little bit in week 1 before sustaining an injury. We talked about Greg Dulcich last week as well, but he's still available in a ton of leagues, so I had to bring him up again. Keep in mind, Greg had a very impressive rookie season, put up 33 receptions on 55 targets, 411 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, that might not sound incredible to you. You have to keep in mind, though, he only played 10 games. Those are his stats with only 10 games played. He missed 7 due to injury. But let's look at his last year, right? He dealt with injuries to begin the year, was activated in week 6, and from weeks 6 to 16, Greg was averaging 41 yards and 8.6 PPR points per game. In that time span, from week 6 to 16, Greg Dulcich was the tight end 10 amongst all tight ends in fantasy football, a top 10 play. This team needs a spark. They need some change. Clearly, Adam Troutman is not the guy. He has no flashiness. He can't run simple routes. I mean, he can, but there's no juice to this guy. He's not going to be an important part of your offense. We saw last year, Dulcich, a great route runner, a guy who can stretch the field horizontally. Maybe vertically? I'm trying to remember how. Yeah, horizon. Vertically, my bad. He can stretch the field vertically down the field. This is a guy that if I need a tight end in my league right now, I can pick him up and put him on the IR. Why not? Right? Free stash. All right, the 8th guy I'm stashing this week is a New York Giant. I know it's not hot. We don't like the Giants. But let's talk about Wan'Dale Robinson, available in 94% of ESPN leagues and 58% of sleeper leagues. This is another player that is being dropped in a ton of leagues. Over 122,000 leagues have cut Wan'Dale to the waiver wire so far this week. Now, I know the Giants don't look good. It doesn't look good. The only name I'm really excited about outside of Saquon and Waller is Wan'Dale. Specifically in this wide receiver room, Wan'Dale is the only one that excites me at all. Now, he was finally recovered from his 2022 injury. And then last week, he left the game a little bit with a concussion symptoms. He came back into the game. But you can see some signs of hope, right? Yeah, his season high is 9.7 points per game. Or not 9.7 points, right? That happened over in week 4 versus the Seattle Seahawks. Okay? Not awesome, right? However, he saw 6 targets in back-to-back games now on just 66% of snaps. In PPR formats, as he ramps up, we could see him become a legitimate flex option out of New York. Again, only 66% of the snaps, 6 targets in back-to-back games. I mean, for example, last year, the game where he had that season-ending injury, they finally unleashed him in Week 11 last year versus the Lions. And then he got injured. In that game, played over 70% of the snaps, 13 targets, almost 20 points in PPR. So this is a guy that should be stashed when he is fully healthy. Maybe he can be the answer to some of their woes. And the good thing is, with all of their offensive line issues, they need someone to throw the ball quickly to on little slants and shorts. And in PPR formats, that could mean fantasy points for Wan'Dale Robinson. All right, the ninth stash that we'll talk about today is Tank Bigsby, available in 88% of ESPN leagues and 70% of sleeper leagues. Everything I just said about Kendre Miller earlier also applies here to Tank Bigsby. Now, I was team Etienne all offseason. I mean, the dude is just a superstar talent. Some people weren't. That's okay. You know, we'll let you off the hook. Some people were team Tank Bigsby. Now, Tank is not going to take Etienne's job, clearly. However, just like Alvin Kamara, if anything were to happen and Etienne goes down, Tank Bigsby becomes a top 24 play on a weekly basis in a good offense that utilizes their running backs heavily. So again, Tank should be rostered. And the last stash I'm going to bring you guys today is, this is one of my favorite low-key stashes. Like, again, in deep leagues, you're considering this. In an 8 or a 10-man league, this guy is not touching your roster, but in 12, 14, 16, some of you crazy guys in 20-man leagues, this man should be rostered at this point. That is Zach Evans, available in 99% of ESPN leagues and 95% of sleeper leagues. He's done nothing this year. Hasn't been active for most games. He just finally got activated last game, didn't have a single carry. Ronnie Rivers is currently playing ahead of him. I don't care. I want to stash Zach Evans. For as good as Kyren Williams has been this year, just remember, guys, that Sean McVay has been extremely unpredictable with his running back usage. Remember, I know right now Kyren Williams is a superstar in fantasy, and I love him. We have no reason to believe that his role is in question. But last year, Kyren was barely involved on this team. I mean, no game over 10 points. A lot of games where he barely touches the ball. He's playing under 10% of the snaps, sometimes 20, 30% of the snaps. I mean, this is not a player last year that Sean McVay prioritized. Now he is this year, and maybe things have completely changed. All I'm saying is, if an injury were to occur, or if Sean McVay goes full Sean McVay mode and goes crazy with his running backs, genuinely, would it surprise any of you guys if in week 10 a report comes out, Kyren Williams is inactive and Zach Evans is getting the start? Would that it genuinely would not surprise me. Maybe I'm wrong, but the way he's used his running backs in the past, it would not shock me at all. Keep in mind, neither of these guys, Kyren and Zach, are high draft capital guys. None of them are first, second, third round picks, right? Kyren was a 5th round pick and Zach was a 6th rounder. So none of them have like ridiculously high draft capital. Again, there's no reason to panic on Kyren Williams. What I'm saying is he is a stash in deeper leagues, deeper benches. I think he should be rostered. And I'll finish the show off today to give you some honorable mentions. We're going to be talking about, when I finish here, almost 30 names, guys. I'm doing the absolute most to help you out here. Can you do me a favor and just smash the like button to help show me some love? You guys were awesome last week ton of likes, ton of views. Go ahead, do the same, help the channel grow. We're on the road to 10K. We're very close to 10K. So go ahead and subscribe if you like this kind of content. But here are some honorable mentions to finish. Hunter Renfrow, he's on this list because there's a chance that he gets traded to a different team. Jalen Hyatt, the rookie. Demario Douglas, I'm actually really excited about. He had a concussion last week, which is unfortunate, but he is the most exciting player, I would say, on the offense in New England. He really is. Kadarius Toney is getting more and more snaps. Elijah Mitchell, Sean Tucker, and Chase Brown are all handcuffs at this point. So, guys, thank you for watching the video. Hey, if you have a quick second, I want to let you guys know that all the content you see on our channel, the live streams, the videos, anytime we interact with you, it's all us behind the scenes. We don't have a team working with us. It's just myself and Badaki, my co-host. We do all the conceptualizing, the scripting, coming up with ideas, brainstorming, to recording, to video editing, to graphics, to sound. Everything you see is us. So if you want to support the channel, keep us going, because our dream is to do this full time, to be able to make enough money to support our families. We're not there. But if you want to help us get there, then go ahead and use our promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, and sign up to the Flock Fantasy website. Our promo code is going to get you 30% off. You're going to get access to my weekly rankings. You'll unlock the fantasy hotline if you choose the Mother Flocker tier. You'll unlock incredible rankings from our entire team, articles from our entire team, best minds in the industry over there, and including databases, Dynasty, Devi, everything over there. So go ahead and consider doing that. Check out the description with the direct link to sign up with our promo code LAND. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day and good luck in what are we in, week 6? Yeah, go get a W. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.